Meaning and types of justice. The meaning of justice understood by looking at the general meaning and then at the types of justice described by thinkers like Aristotle. The meaning of justice. Philosophers since Socrates and Plato and even earlier have grappled with meaning of justice but have not agreed upon the definition. Justice an elusive concept. It has been called a will of the whisk protein faced concept. Not only does it change shape from the time to time, it is difficult for two people to agree about its meaning at a given point in time. Our need, however, is limited to understanding its role within the legal system. For this purpose, the definition given by Aristotle mastermind could see two types of justice: distributive and corrective justice. This structure was improved over old times according to Jane Devin. Ernest Oriana, justice should be viewed in three ways: commutative justice, distributive, and legal justice. Commutative justice, the first kind of justice, aimed at the proper adjustment of the relations of private individual, particularly by means of the legal remedies designed to avoid adequate damages in contract and tort cases, stolen or lost property, grand restitution cases of injustice, enrichment, and the like. Distributive justice determines what is due from the collectivity to its member. It covers the legislative distribution of rights, powers, honor, and rewards. We have discussed about that role and its status of individual are explained in terms of rights and obligations. These rights and obligations are expressed through the norms and rules. The question is who spoke these rules are convert them into status, the legislature, the courts. This is where the distributive justice comes in to decide what rights and obligations are being granted and what are being taken away. And distributive justice, therefore, is what the law gives or takes away. There is rights and obligation in a secular state, where the will of the people is theoretically supreme. The rights and obligation may reflect the collective sense of the people. In an Islamic state, however, further questions are raised. There are certain fundamental rights that have been granted to individuals, but protect as the rights of Allah, rights that lie outside the ambit of a state of law, so to say, rights that cannot be suspended or taken away, whatever the emergency. Are these rights to be enforced by the court, irrespective of whether they have been recorded in and protected by the Constitution? This leads to further question: what are the limits on legislative power within Islamic State, and does the corrective or the legal justice? Legal justice, on other hand, is concerned with what is owed to the collectivity by its member. Its object is ordinations for the common good. There is determinations of the duties and obligations which the member of society owe to the social whole, such as renew, military service, participation, public function, obedience to laws and legitimate order. Legal justice says that Devin is a virtue most necessary to the public good precisely because its object is the public good of the state of the public. It is in legal justice that law and morals may so closely as most to merge. Although legal justice will come into play only after the demonstrations of insufficiency of two other forms of justice or the solutions of problems, it will prevail in the case of an irreconcilable conflict with the latter. Corrective justice, in other sense, is the restoration of the position determined by law when distributive justice is distributed. This confers the fifth function of mentioned above, namely to enforce justice. These questions are transcendent theories. We may now examine justice according to law and corrective justice in little more detail. Justice according to law. From a different perspective, we may divide corrective justice into criminal justice and civil justice. Criminal justice, according to Sir Robert Gross, the aim of the penal system is to reduce the crime by making as many people as possible want to obey the criminal law. And the general practice of punishment by the state is only justified if it has two objectives: the reduction of crime and the promotion of respect for the criminal law. Criminal justice is not imparted through the courts alone. It is comprised in elaborate machinery. Yes, and criminal justice, the police are, the prosecution are, the courts are, the correctional faculties are, parole and probation are. The role of defense is equally important. The norms and rules that govern all these areas are contained in the Constitution, the Pakistan Penal Code, the Criminal Procedure Code. These laws are supported by the host of other legislation like the Anti-Terrorism Act, the Police Order, Prison Act, Police Manual, the Jail Manual, so on. The goals of criminal justice in Pakistan are not clearly defined everywhere. That is, what does the law of crime seeks? Are these goals are still say? It is true that the goals of the criminal justice system are not really stated in courts, but they must be defined somewhere. And we may reproduce the purpose of criminal law stated in the Model Penal Code of the American Law Institute to give the readers an idea of such a purpose. The general purpose of provision governing the definition of offences to forbid and prevent conduct that unjustifiably and inexcusably inflict or threaten substance harm to individual or public interest. To subject to public control person whose conduct indicate they are disposed to commit a crime. To safeguard conduct that is without fault from the condonation as a criminal. To give fair warning of the nature of conduct declared to be an offensive. To differentiate the reasonable grounds between the serious and minor offenses. In addition to these goals of sentence have been stated as follows. The general purpose of the provisions governing the sentencing and treatment of offenders are to prevent the commissions of offences, to promote the corrections and rehabilitations of offenders, to safeguard offender against excessive disproportions of arbitrary punishment, to give fair warning of the nature of sentence that may be imposed on conviction of offences, to differentiate among the offenders the due to justice and realism in their treatment, to define, coordinate, harmonize the power, duties and functions of courts and of administrative officer, agencies responsible for dealing with offender, to advance the use of generally accepted scientific methods and knowledge in sentence and treatment of offenders, and to integrate responsibility for the administration of criminal systems department. This suggests that goals of criminal law and those of sentence should be clear in Pakistan, in addition to some basic principles already in the Constitution. The justification of punishment theories. Justification for punishment typically take with 5 nouns: retributive, deterrence, preventive, rehabilitative, and restitutionary. Theories of punishment are formulated by jurists to answer some fundamental question. Is the aim of the punishment simply to mete out an appropriate punishment to wrongdoer? Is it intended to deter the wrongdoer as well as others from committing such offences in the future? And in other words, what quantum of punishment is suitable for each offender? Retribution. The justification of punishment according to this theory is based on the natural reaction of man. It is analyzed into following options: moral belief, worthiness. The basic assumptions of the retribution theory is that a crime is essentially a moral wrong. The well-known doctrine of mens rea is also based upon the idea, because it requires a blameworthy intention. A moral blameworthy act is also equivalent with sin. In the idea of moral blameworthy is based upon the power of human beings to choose between rights and wrong. A person committing evil act is to be responsible for the consequence. It is based on the maxim in eye for an eye and tooth for tooth. ऐं उन खां पोइ जेको असांजो proportionality rule. The judge who still maintain this theory insists that punishment should be proportioned according to God. If the task of the judge justice, then the only way the judge can award right punishment is by asking whether or not the offender deserves this punishment. Such a judge there that if the concept deserve eliminate, the concept just would be eliminated with it too.